time is it? What time is it? What time is it?
Welcome to Talking About Sports here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. It's a very family-friendly atmosphere. We have great food, great people here, such as our all-star panel from Penn State, the top 5 Penn State Nittany Lions, ESPN, and the Carolina Panthers, Reggie Walker, William Wilson, the owner and founder of William Wilson Clothing, Arkansas Razorback, in the Navy. That's your favorite song, as well as you are a Navy veteran, and thank you for your service. And from TNN's Race Day, WBTV, and Fox 46 in Charlotte, my good friend and former colleague, Jeff Taylor. Now, guys, real quick, we've got a very long streak to talk about. The Cleveland Indians have set an American League record with a 21-game win streak. I watched their game yesterday afternoon. These guys seem to be doing everything right. Guys, in fact, I think Tito Francona, their manager, one of his friends, he calls him his bad luck friend. He says, I'm not talking to the guy. I can't talk to him. He's my bad luck friend. He didn't want to jinx the team. Well, I mean, you guys have jinxes or what do you call those things?
Superstitions. Yeah, mine before football games. I don't talk for about really all day.
You can't do that here
until kickoff. I don't say a word. And then the other one is as you put your uniform on, you do it the same way every time. Everything has to match up the same every single time you do it. That's just how I was. I mean, I don't know about anybody else.
Well,
that's how I was.
You got to think the Indians are doing whatever they're doing. It's working. You have a lucky tape measure. You measure at the suit shop at William Wilson Clothing. You have lucky stuff.
No, I don't really believe in all that thing. I believe in golf. We call it a pre-shot routine. You know, where you do like Reggie said, do the same thing every time. You maintain that consistency.
You think that'll help me?
No.
Well, your routine needs to start with practice, instruction, practice, instruction.
That's
give
what
up
Kevin
the game.
Tolbert, our executive producer, tells me. If I had one of them W shirts and hats, I think that would help.
All right, give me a credit card, I give you a shirt.
It's maxed out right now.
We have the technology to make that happen. I'll take care of you. I got you.
Now, Jeff, we've talked about this before, but especially in football, kickers, special teams. Is there a mindset routine kind of thing that they go through? How do you visualize that?
They used to have bad luck at Randolph-Macon, Jeff.
No, I didn't, man. Come on now. Well, when we played Hampton-Sydney, yes. You know, for special teams, especially as a kicker, I would always make sure that no matter what, I always ended on a good note.
Right.
Clean snap, clean hold, clean kick. You never wanted to miss one and the coach call you over and say, hey, time's up. Let's head to the locker room.
I think Grant Gano must have had some bad luck because he and the Panthers don't. I don't think they're going to look at. And speaking of the Panthers, what about Mike Tolbert and Buffalo or Carolina North?
Yeah,
with you basically have a bunch of ex-Panthers, whether it be front office coaches and players coming down here, and they think some revenge on their mind.
I think he's
going to
have the same success as Adrian Peterson had against the Vikings.
It's not saying
I don't think he's going to run for a whole lot.
It seems to me like players that come back when they play against Carolina seem to play really well against Carolina, depending on how they left Carolina. If they left on a bad note where there's a sour taste in their mouth, they really gear up for that game. And I don't know if Carolina is always necessarily prepared for the amount of anger and animosity and vitriol that they bring to that field against them in that particular game.
Well, I think there's a lot of validity to everything you just said, but I think on the flip side as a player, the biggest thing you got to remember is it's just another football game. And I think, to your point, I think those guys do a good job of understanding that when they come back and play well because they don't overthink it. They don't try to attack the moment in any different way than they normally would. And it helps you stay grounded and just play the football game the way you're supposed to play it. Because if you come in with too much of that animus and too much of that anger, too much of that watch me prove this to you, sometimes you press and that's where guys make mistakes. So I think, to your point, I think a lot of that is patience by a lot of guys and understanding to just play the game the way they've always played it.
You know, we think about Smitty when he came back and played, against the Panthers. He had a pretty solid game.
Right.
But that's a secondary. I think Carolina's front seven.
Smitty's got the open invitation to come here anytime, by the way.
And I think that, Carolina's front seven's a different story. I think if it was a receiver, but I agree with what you say. I think they get in that mindset they want to come back and prove something, but I don't know. That front seven, I don't know.
That's certainly fair.
Before we go to a break, I just want to impart this upon William Wilson. As I remember interviewing Steve Smith in the locker room right before they had a long playoff run. I believe they were getting ready to play Dallas. What was that, the 2003 season? And I think it was either me or my former colleague Sharon Thorsland said, "You're getting ready to play America's team, the Dallas Cowboys." And Smitty looked at us straight-faced. I couldn't use the exact language. It began with F, them, and I'm American. I didn't vote for them. And I think they went out and beat the Cowboys the next week. But we're just getting started. We've got college football, NASCAR, William Wilson and Jeff Taylor here, so you know we're going to talk some NASCAR. We're coming back from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill right here on Talking About Sports.
We're talking about sports on
We're talking about sports at ADS. I don't know how to say that.
We're talking about
sports in, oh God, I forgot.
ADSN.
What is it?
ADSN.
ADSN, okay.
Yep.
We're talking about sports.
Talking about sports.
We're talking about sports.
Talking sports.
Talking about sports. We're talking about sports on ADSN.
Talking about sports on ADSN.
Well, I went back yesterday and looked at Zach Smith and all of the games that he played, started. I didn't watch everyone he played in a year ago. He's got a big arm, and they've gotten a lot of people open consistently, and he's a guy that is accurate and highly touted, pro-style type quarterback. The other quarterback is definitively an explosive runner, no question, with a big arm. So you prepare for their offense. They're not going to run different sets of plays. So you just have to basically prepare for their offense, and regardless of who's playing quarterback, we've got to play well.
Welcome to Talking About Sports. So we're back here with our all-star panel with Reggie Walker, William Wilson, Jeff Taylor. College football on the docket. A lot of surprises over the weekend. We've got a couple of undefeated teams in the ACC. Duke is 2-0. Wake Forest 2-0. The South Carolina Gamecocks are 2-0. I know that makes you happy, Jeff Taylor. You're helping to pay for the everything down there.
I am helping to pay for it.
I'm working the Duke-Baylor game this weekend. I'm really excited. And, Reggie, you've been the guy who's been touting the Duke defense all along. They recruit Charlotte and Monroe very heavily in this area. They got a lot of good skill players. I like what Coach Cutcliffe is doing. And what do you think so far with wins over North Carolina Central and Northwestern? What is Duke doing right other than having a good coaching staff and executing?
Well, I think they're playing to their strength. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, North Carolina Central notwithstanding, we're going to move past that. But that Northwestern offense behind Clayton Thorson is powerful. They've got playmakers. They can score points. They shut them down last week. Check this. Listen to this right here. Duke is giving up an average of 5.2 yards per attempt in terms of passing defense. Well, I talked about that before the season. I said this defense, in my mind, was going to be a top 30, top 40 defense in the country. They're well on their way to that right now. Their corners do a great job. They play that 4-2-5 system. And as long as you continue to be opportunistic on defense and get the football back, to your point, to David Cutcliffe's offense, you're going to be in a position to win games.
4-2-5 is one of their 5 DBs like a hybrid rover safety linebacker, or are they playing like an extra corner?
They're basically playing. They're playing 3 safeties. Really, is what they're doing. But he's a smallish linebacker that allows him to play in some different spots. He can come down in the box and really help them, kind of like Deion Buchanan does for the Arizona Cardinals in the NFL, formerly at Washington State. And then on the flip side, he can help them in coverage, and they can play some more shell-type coverages over the top and keep everything in front of them.
I think, Will, the Duke's offense with David Cutcliffe running the offense, they're a lot better than the Arkansas offense, which, by the way, I was listening to that game coming back against TCU. That was preprehistoric. But
so you should have saw it.
Well, I was listening to it. But Duke really likes to open it up. They're playing this they're playing a nickel defense to start off. I think they really have a good mix of run and pass. I think the conference matchups favor them right now. What do you think, Duke? Obviously a basketball school, but I think Coach Cutcliffe has it turned around on the football side for Duke.
Well, I think the biggest thing starts with the mindset of the people at the top. Where the head goes, the body follows.
That's right.
When Cutcliffe got there, Duke didn't have this mindset. We're going to walk right in, and in 3 years, we're going to be ahead of the ACC.
Right.
They knew what they were. They said, we're going to give you the time to build. We're going to give you time to do it your way and establish a pedigree for your system. Not the year you got all your guys in, your 4th year, show us what you have, and that's what we're going to hold to it. They build a program, they build a tradition, or they're building a tradition. They're working, like Reggie said, they're working to their strengths. They're going to do what they do. They're going to play Duke football. They're going to establish what that is. and it will take them a little while longer. They'll work their way towards middle of the ACC consistently. Will they ever be that top 3? I don't know. But I think that 4th, 5th in the ACC consistently can be there unless he pulls a what's his name, Skip Holtz, and he bounces.
Well, that was
so he's on his way. If Cutcliffe stays there, Duke can be good for a while.
Well, I think he's going to stay. He's turned down other jobs.
Well,
I think his wife said, "Look, do you want to go back and be out of a job soon, or you want to stay here for a long time?"
A lot of coaches turn down jobs so they get the one they want.
Jeff Taylor, Wake Forest, is that they're 2-0 as well? A big road victory at Boston College. I think Dave Clawson is a very good coach. You have ties to Richmond. He had that team on the cusp of a national 1AA national title at Richmond. He leaves to go to. Where was it, Reggie? Bowling Green? He went to Bowling Green. And then Mike London takes over and wins the national title with basically his team. Wake Forest, a tough physical ball club. They redshirt a lot of guys. I like what Wake's doing. They run the ball.
They run the ball. They haven't made any mistakes. They haven't killed themselves. And when you can get that running game going, everything else falls into place. You can play that, that tough D, get those guys out there, run the ball, run the clock, and just play that ball-controlled offense. You're going to win ball games, and I think what he's done – listen, Wake and Boston College, and we can talk about ACC football as much as we want, but, you go on the road early and get a win, that's a big deal.
You only play 12, and you get the more you add up, it helps.
And it helps. It's just confidence-wise.
The parallel I like between this Wake program and the Duke program is they understand that there's still a place for developmental programs.
Right.
They're not trying to go find – 3-and-done kids, guys will come in and start as freshmen. They're okay redshirting players. They're okay building them up, letting them, maybe you're going to redshirt as a freshman. Then as your redshirt freshman year, you're going to play a little bit of special teams and some situational football. They're okay doing those things, and they're having success because of it.
And kudos to what you said, William. It comes from the head man. I mean, the coaches that they've got that mentality. Like you guys are talking about that. They know this is going to be right, and this is where we're going, and we're going to build it, and we're going to stick with it. We're not going to get fancy. We're going to go out and play football. And God bless him. Give him credit.
Yeah, but his name escapes me. But he's the baseball coach at South Carolina.
He came from NC State.
Yeah, I'm talking about South Carolina.
The new one.
Ray Tanner.
Yeah, Ray Tanner. Thank you.
He's the AD now.
When Tanner was there, I remember him saying he didn't look for those blue chip guys.
Right.
He looked for those guys he knew was going to be there because they can play together as a team.
Right.
They can buy into a system. He wasn't worried about them having a good year and bouncing. All those things he didn't concern. There wasn't the egos.
Right.
They were
Absolutely.
just hungry people that were ready to play together, and they would play together, and that's why they were always in the College World Series conversation.
I'll tell you who is
year after year.
A 3-and-done guy is a guy that I covered Louisville and North Carolina last week, and what a show that Lamar Jackson put on for Louisville. They destroyed North Carolina. The scoreboard was not truly indicative of what a beatdown that actually was. Surratt, the redshirt freshman quarterback from, I believe, East Lincoln High School, looked good in the first half, had a hip flexor injury right at halftime, so he, without him in the lineup, I think they were somewhat hamstrung, but Lamar Jackson is, I think, the main reason, and losing to Cal. 0-2 North Carolina, I think that's a surprise. I didn't think 1-1 would be a bad deal, but 0-2 North Carolina, that to me is shocking.
Yeah, and when you think about what Lamar Jackson has done historically, and then what he was able to do against North Carolina, it speaks to, and they've since made a change with the defensive coordinator at North Carolina. They've got to figure out.
You can't blame that on Papadukis.
But sometimes it's about simplification. Maybe they're trying to do too much on defense with their different schemes, and guys aren't able to grasp it. And what happens when that's the case? Guys play slower because you're not playing instinctive football. If you watch this North Carolina team on defense right now, they look like they're running in quicksand. There's too much thinking going on. They may need to simplify their scheme, go to some more base defense, and let kids just run and play football.
It looked like one guy making a tackle almost every time. It wasn't this kind of go get him. It was really
Mike linebacker number 10. He got hurt because he was trying. He was basically he was
following the play.
He was being the spy, like Carolina used to have Thomas Davis for Michael Vick. He was doing that, but there's no way he could keep up with it. And I said this on national radio this past weekend when I was covering the game. Lamar Jackson won the Heisman last year with very good statistics. He's putting up ridiculous statistics now. And a wise man once said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. If he keeps putting on these type of performances, these types of numbers, I see who's going to beat him. I think he's the champion now, and until someone has better stats than this guy, he's going to be the Heisman Trophy winner next year. But we're going to go to a break now. We've got more college football discussion plus some NASCAR, Carolina Panthers, right here from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. This is Talking About Sports.
I mean, they're crazy good. It's video numbers. I mean, it's unbelievable. The numbers, they're averaging 614 yards a game and 7.6 yards per play. That's incredible. You know, Lamar Jackson is unbelievable football player. He's fun to watch. He's not fun to prepare for. He's not fun to play against. I much prefer to watch him. I enjoy that a lot better. We got our hands full with this guy, man. What a player. He's averaging 505 yards a game, averaging in 2 games, 505 yards a game.
Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Kevin Casey and Jeff Taylor, William Wilson, Reggie Walker, and we're getting breaking ground here. You see earpieces in our going on. We've got a special guest via phone, Charles Arbuckle here, a nationally known college football and William Wilson customer from William Wilson Clothing. So we're glad to have you here, Charles. What game are you calling this weekend?
I got the LSU at Mississippi State game. So,
SEC.
Yeah, we got a couple teams that we'll finally figure out how good they are. These teams have played some really close ball the last few years, so I'm really looking forward to seeing Nick Fitzgerald. Arden Key should be coming back to LSU. A lot of young talent on that LSU defense, and see if Matt Canada has been able to teach them how to throw the football a little bit.
Well, Buck, Jeff Taylor here has family. Who do you have down in South Carolina?
My oldest son is a sophomore at South Carolina, and they are pumped for this weekend's game, 2-0, going against Kentucky. And what's your thoughts on Deebo Samuel, man? That guy, early talk, Heisman, is that a possibility?
If they keep picking to him, he's able to
exactly.
Yeah, he is. Deebo kind of came on the scene last year, but this year I think people forgot how good he was. I mean, they've used him in a number of different ways, and they definitely have found him in the receiving game. But man, return-wise, he has just made it uncomfortable for a lot of teams, and it's nice to watch because South Carolina, I think, had kind of been given up for dead. I got to see one of their last games a few years ago before they hired Muschamp, and the Citadel just took it to them.
Right.
It was not the same team that I saw years before when they were winning 11 games, and had all the talent. Recruiting had fallen off. East Murray had walked away during the season. But what I liked about the team now is that nobody looks to them to be a real contender in the East. And if you keep kicking the Deebo Samuel, you keep letting that defense play with Sky Moore back and some other young talent around him, I think they really have a chance to contend in the East.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, now, Buck, I'm going to switch gears on you a little bit. Since the word Heisman came up from Jeff Taylor right there. Speaking of the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Lamar Jackson, completing almost 65% of his passes this year, almost a little over 9 yards per attempt. I know that they've done some things with him in the offseason, and you and I have talked about this in the offseason and in spring ball. They don't allow him to run the football. They force him to stand in the pocket and throw the football. How much improvement have you seen from him as a pure passer in the pocket this year?
Well, I've seen a lot more, Reg, and I think a lot of it is due to that offensive line finally looking like they want to touch somebody as opposed to playing touch football with the D-line. That's made a big difference. When you really look at their offensive line, they've played some good football. They've been really consistent. But North Carolina's defense, guys, is not very good this year.
No.
And
neither
I
is
think
Purdue,
also
really.
when you look at Purdue, that's another one. They struggled in both of those games, but I think some of it was because of their defense. Jair Alexander being out hurts them. They need to find things on defense, but Lamar is doing it by himself. And to your point, they've really worked on the vertical passing game, but then also given him the option to check things off. He's doing a lot more at the line of scrimmage, which I think is helping them. Last year, at the very end of the year, he really started putting them in bad positions sometimes and not making plays when he could have. The check down for him sometimes would go high and away. That's starting to be a better thing. He's starting to get that completed a little bit more with consistency. So I think the biggest thing for him is he's got to take what the defense gives him, and Clemson doesn't give you a whole lot. They're salty on defense, and we saw that against Auburn with Jared Stidham getting sacked 11 times. They're going to come. Brent Venables is one of the best defensive play callers in game.
Yes.
And I think they'll have something for Bobby Petrino, and I think it'll be a really, really good ball game.
Yeah, this one's going to be a chess match. And speaking of that Clemson defense, week one against we're not even going to get into the opponent situation there. They didn't get any sacks, and then they come back and they get 11 against an Auburn offense that's known to be pretty good and know what they're doing, especially in the history of Gus Malzahn. So, we often talk about the development and the improvement from game one to game two. Was it really that much of a marked improvement for that Clemson defense between game one and game two, or more of a situation where they said, okay, we're going to actually play a little bit?
I think it was more they were going to play a little bit. When I watched the tape, I could only watch the first half of the Clemson game. The first drive, Kent State had, I think, 3 or 4 offside penalties or false start penalties on offense. And they were really just trying to slow the clock down and do whatever they could. They knew they were outmanned. And Clemson had some opportunities to get sacks, but they just really beat that team badly. And it gave the offense a chance to be highlighted. I think the Auburn game, what it did is it showed me something with Kelly Bryant. Clemson, he's going to face a really tough defense in Louisville, and they play really well at home on a game like this. I don't think Louisville still has the talent levels with all the skill weapons that Clemson has on offense, so that'll be interesting. But defensively, when these guys want to play, man, Christian Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence set the tempo, but you've got guys flying around, and what they're going to do is what you noticed at the very end of last year, teams start using either a hybrid safety or a rover or somebody to spy on Lamar Jackson. And it's not really to say, you're going to play the old school spy, box and one kind of thing. It was really to keep an eye on him and make sure if you're playing man, there was always somebody that had eyes on him. So if he started to run, they would get after him or force him into the defensive interior. Well, Clemson flows to the football, and we saw that last week.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what they want to do. And they've got guys off the edge, they got guys interior. So whenever Lamar starts to attempt to think he's going to run, that's when those guys aren't going to run past them and rush past them. They're going to rush and contain. But when they turn, watch the big cats run, and then watch how everybody flows to the football. This week for Clemson is probably going to be pursuit. They're going to be in that sleeping pod they have out there, pursuing drills. So I really look forward to this game because I think it's a chance for Bobby Petrino and Lamar Jackson to take another step. That Clemson defense, guys, is just so doggone tough.
Charles, now we talked about all this ACC stuff for a while. Let's talk about the big daddies in the house, the SEC. Now, my Razorbacks, when we played FAMU, and we did what we were supposed to do with FAMU, and then we played TCU and looked like we were FAMU. So, which Arkansas are we? What are we this year? You can be brutally honest. I'll take it.
I just don't know what Arkansas is. I mean, from week to week, I can't figure them out. And there's some weeks when you expect them to get the doors blown off of them, they play well. I saw them in the Belk Bowl, so I had a chance to study them, and I thought, hey, this Arkansas team is going to be good. They come out firing, they get things moving, and then Virginia Tech comes storming back. I think TCU surprisingly could run the football against them this year, which I thought was going to be a better thing for them with guys coming back like Dre Greenlaw and some of the other guys they had defensively. I was shocked with the way they were getting kind of pushed around by TCU.
You got manhandled up.
So if you're going to be an SEC team, you got to be strong on that side of the ball, and that's the one thing that just has shocked me with what I saw with Arkansas against the TCU team that's gotten a lot more physical, I think, since last year.
Yeah, we couldn't run the football. We are a running back school. For us to not be able to run the ball against TCU was the most alarming thing of everything I saw. Now, you talked about the Belk Bowl last year, that huge lead we gave up. If you look at the stats from last year, we were plus 33 points in the beginning of the season, or plus 62 or 32 points in the first half, minus 62 in the second half. So we would always give you back whatever you gave. We were a very benevolent school that way. But I've just never figured out, I think it starts at the head. I think we need a new coach, but I thought we needed a new coach before they brought him in.
Just because he pulled John Daly's sideline pass I know it stung you having to give that Belkville the sport coat away, knowing that you had the victory in the grasp, and then you gave it away at the end, although the tech had something to do with it.
It really didn't. I'd seen that movie all season, so it wasn't really a new show to me. It wasn't a new thing to me to watch. I was with a friend of mine. He was like, "You guys got this. You haven't seen us play football." And I love my Razorbacks. When I was 10 years old, I knew two things. I was going to dye black, and I was going to the University of Arkansas.
But
I love my Hogs.
I have to hear this all the time,
But
Buck.
this is what we are.
Too much squirrel hunting going on in Arkansas.
Yeah, can I say one thing about the Razorbacks? I love the program. I was recruited by them.
Me too.
We beat them at the Cotton Bowl my senior year, 17-3. So I have to tell the Razorback fans we own them a little bit. But the thing is, you bring up a good point, William. William, you bring up a good point. The surprising thing for them is that they weren't able to run the football as effectively as you would think. With the guys coming back, Devin Whaley and other young guys. So that, to me, when you're an Arkansas team, your best bet is to set up a play-action pass. And play-action pass becomes obsolete if you're not effectively running the football. If you're pound the rock kind of team, and they didn't do that last week. And I would expect practice would be the thing where they get back to that this week.
Now, William, I was about to say William. Buck.
We don't all look alike.
Yeah, stop it.
We are both wearing William Wilson.
All right,
fair point.
Buck, we have a couple minutes before we take a break here, but let me get some quick takes from you. What do you think, and I don't know if you've looked at any of the games yet or what you've uncovered, what do you think of 2-0 Duke and 2-0 Wake Forest so far?
I've been really impressed with Duke, especially Northwestern, because we thought Northwestern was going to be one of those 5 Big Ten teams. Wake Forest, until I really see them against somebody that I can say, but I'm not surprised that they're playing better, because I'll say this, Wake Forest was a defense that gave everybody the book on how to defend Lamar Jackson from the end of the year all the way to the LSU game when they just corralled him and beat him up in that bowl game. So I'm not surprised by Wake Forest's defense, because that's where they've been strong, but they're able to score points now. So I'm impressed with that. Daniel Jones is probably the one guy we don't talk enough about in the ACC as a good quarterback. He made some throws. He's more athletic. I saw the kid when he was a freshman and a sophomore at Charlotte Latin to now. Totally different body. They've done a great job with him. And Coach Cutcliffe can take a quarterback, and it's a blank canvas, and he will make a masterpiece and sell it to you for about $5,000 if he could on the open market. More than that, because the quarterbacks end up going in the first, second, or whatever round they go in. They play a long time in the NFL. So both of those teams will be tough outs in the ACC, and I'm glad to see Duke having some success again.
Okay, Charles, we're going to take a break here. We're going to ask you, hopefully you can stay with us, a very quick break, and we'll come back and get your take on and give us maybe some of your analysis on the LSU-Mississippi State game I think you're working. So we have lots more questions. Stay tuned to more analysis from Charles Arbuckle right here on Talking About Sports.
We're talking about sports on
We're talking about sports at ADSN. I don't know how to say that.
We're talking about
sports in, oh God, I forgot.
ADSN.
What is it?
ADSN.
ADSN, okay.
Yeah.
We're talking about sports.
Talking about sports.
We're talking about sports.
Talking sports. Talking about sports.
We're talking about sports on ADSN.
Talking about sports on ADSN.
Welcome back to Talking About Sports. We've made a driver change. We brought in Mike Pacheco, who's come in from the cold. Actually, it's not cold, but Mike, glad you're here. So we have Charles Arbuckle from Touchdown Radio, who's calling the LSU-Mississippi State game, and in addition to William Wilson and Reggie Walker. Charles, what do you think about this Mississippi State-LSU game? What are you uncovering in your pregame prep so far?
Well, I mean, having watched both weeks of both teams, first couple weeks, it's interesting. I know what Mississippi State is trying to run the football effectively, and Harris Williams, Travian Lee, those are the guys that really are the bell cow. Harris Williams is the one we'll see a lot more of. They want to effectively run the football against LSU, and then when they have to, they've got a really good quarterback, and I don't know if enough people know or talk about him. Caleb, also a freshman, in that running back committee. They do a lot of run pass options. But the key person in their offense is Nick Fitzgerald. He's gotten better as a player. He's still sometimes he's got such a strong arm. He'll try to force things in. They've got some good play from the tight end position, which I think they have been lacking the last couple of years. Offensive line is blocking a lot better, but the competition level raises up for them this week. LSU's defense did not allow BYU to cross the 50 in that game, and I think this is going to be a good test to see if Mississippi State can run the football. The other key thing with LSU, they've been playing without Arden Key. He should be back this week. So they got a lot of young players. I think they played like 10 to 12 freshmen alone, and they are just flying around the football. When you watch them, you turn on the tape, Dave Miranda has done a really nice job of taking good athletes, making them better players by letting them go play fast and furious. On the other hand, Mississippi State's defense has quietly put together a nice season, but it's been against lesser competition. So when I look at this game, they played close the last 3 years. Mississippi State has not been able to beat LSU, but this would be a huge win for Dan Mullen and the team if they can get it done. I think LSU's offense, to me, is also one that I want to see them against an SEC caliber defense and see if they can attack Mississippi State's back end, which wasn't as good last year, but they seem to be more athletic this year.
Mike, do you have a call on the other line, Mike, or is that?
That's not me. That's Mike.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Mike, what do you have? What do you uncover? What do you got going on here?
No, just what do you think Ed Orgeron's influence has been so far at LSU?
I think I love Les Miles. I think he's a really good coach. He's been able to recruit, but I think the program became really stale. The MO on them was they're going to try to beat you like Alabama, and Alabama became better at that game. So I think with Ed Orgeron coming in and making it just, get those guys to play with a lot more passion and play up to their 4 or 5 star level, what I've seen so far. Going into the bowl season this year so far, they play with a lot of fury, guys, and that's the thing I remember about LSU even back in the day. You knew LSU's defense was going to bring it. I'm seeing that. Offensively, what I like so far is that they're using Darius guys. Matt Canada's doing a lot of trade and exchange with his offensive line and receivers. They're still figuring that out, but I think what they're doing is they're getting the ball to their weapon. Darius Geis on the jet sweep first play of the game against BYU. Then they come back with one of their receivers on the jet sweep. They're trying to do the same thing that Matt Canada has always done, and that's put his players in position to get on the edge and then attack you in the middle. And I think with Darius Geis being the main ball carrier that we'll see, you'll see some other guys as well. They're off, and Darrell Williams also. This offensive line looks to be much better suited for this offense that they have. Now, that's 2 weeks against competition, like I said, that's not going to be as good as I think this Mississippi State ball club is going to be. So I'm curious to watch that and watch how they develop and see if he uses the tight end more, because that was the one thing that I thought with LSU. They've always had really good tight ends, but then unless the last few years they got away from using a tight end who can man the middle and do so much in the middle of the field against linebackers that can't cover you, and safeties or hybrid, guys in the back end that aren't big enough to cover you.
Now, Buck, with Ed Orgeron's background as a defensive line coach and some of the things that they've done historically with, quarterbacks that can move their feet, and I'm not going to sit here and try to compare Nick Fitzgerald to a guy like Lamar Jackson, but one of the things that defenses do, and Arden Key being back potentially this week, adding to that pass rush, will we see more of a contained rush from them, or do we expect them to try to get after it and just go get upfield and try to get to the quarterback, or will they try to keep him in the pocket and make Nick Fitzgerald beat them completely with his arm?
Reg, you bring up a great point. The one thing they've done a real nice job of is like K'Lavon Chaser has come in and been that bench linebacker, or they call him, they call him a lot of different things. They also have a Rover and Devin White, another linebacker type guy, that when they want to come and rush and they delay blitz you or delay if they see no running back in the area to pick you up, they'll go after you. They've got guys on the back end that are really young, like Greedy Williams, who's a redshirt freshman. I love that name.
How apropos is that name? Greedy.
Yeah, and then Corey Thompson. I think, what it is with LSU's defense, they've really become a lot more athletic. They're young, but they're really athletic in how they play, and they fly around the football. Their front guys, Rashad Lawrence, I don't know if he's going to play. He was hurt against BYU didn't play last week. Glenn Logan, Greg Gilmore, Ed Alexander, and Christian Locouture, they all give them the ability to fly to the football and get to those open holes because they just man up front, and they're really big and athletic as defensive linemen. That's why Arden Key coming back plays a role to me, because he's not always the biggest guy, but he will get sacks, and he can get after Nick Fitzgerald, and they'll probably do the same thing. Nick is really fast. Once he gets moving, you've got to respect his speed. So I can imagine they'll use their rover, they'll use their linebackers to kind of keep an eye on him to make sure he can't take off and run, because we've seen him go the distance with that speed. He's not as quick in a small confined area, but he's really fast once he gets moving.
You know, Buck, before we go to a break and let you go to work on your game prep, give us a couple of – we've seen guys come from smaller schools. Pierre Garçon, I believe, played D3. My son played D2 ball. We've seen guys from 1AA making an impact. And speaking of which, how about Tariq Cohen from North Carolina A&T right up the road here in Greensboro? He's doing a tremendous job. He had a great game for the Bears against Tampa Bay. What do you think about Tariq Cohen and maybe the impact of some of these smaller school guys?
Well, I can't. The guy, it's funny you bring him up, because I was watching the Minnesota game, and their receiver went to an open tryout, and his name escapes me, but he flashed all that night.
Thielen from Minnesota State.
Yeah. So I think the big thing, guys, is if you can play, they will find you. That's the one thing I know about the NFL. But the thing with Tariq Cohen, Jay Walker and I were talking about him it was last year, the year before last. He kept telling me, keep an eye on this kid. So I would, watch the stats whenever the game was on. Jay would call some of those games, and I would see this guy flash. So before last week, or before their first game of the season, Jonathan Hood, who's in Chicago, we were doing a segment, and he asked me, well, what did I know about Tariq Cohen? I said, hey, you ain't going to be able to touch him. That's the one thing. I mean, when he catches the ball, he also can bring a pop, too, and he's not afraid to run over you. So I think Darren Sproles is probably thinking, hey, young man, I influence you in some way, shape, or form. That's kind of what I see when I watch a Tariq Cohen. I see a Darren Sproles 2.0 with the return ability, the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and have mean intentions when you try to come up on him, because he's got leverage on you already. So I'm happy for game planning. But I think if they use him in the right way, he'll really do some things for them this year.
Well, there's the old saying, there's two things you can't hide, ugly and talent. So if you got either one of them, people are going to see it.
Well, I guess the ugly part, he's not ugly, but he sure is talented.
and a lot of those guys that go to FCS schools and smaller schools, a lot of times the issue isn't ability. A lot of times it's size.
Yeah.
Right.
And this kid fits that bill.
Yeah, and they play with a chip on their shoulders, which is good. They always have that drive to say, you didn't remember me, you didn't know me. I mean, Walter Payton from Jackson State, you can go all through the list of
Jerry Rice,
college, Jerry Rice, Doug Williams. You think of guys all around that have played and have played at high level.
Tolbert.
High level.
Brad Hoover.
So it's just always interesting to watch how those young men make plays, and when they get a chance, they seize the moment.
All right, well, Charles, we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy prep for your game here, Mississippi State and LSU on Touchdown Radio. Thank you so much for being a part of Talking About Sports.
Hey, man, it's good talking to you guys. Y'all have a good one.
All right. See you later, Buck.
And it's great, guys, that we have a guy like Charles Arbuckle coming on the show and dropping his intense knowledge. So we're just getting started. We got Carolina Panther discussions. Mike Pacheco is in the know. He hosts the post-game radio show. We're coming back with more Talking About Sports right here from the Dilworth Neighborhood
Where
Grill.
the food at?
Welcome back to Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Kevin Casey along with Mike Pacheco, William Wilson, Reggie Walker. Carolina Panthers 1-0 beating San Francisco. Mike, what guys like you, Brett McMillan, Mike Kraft, what were you guys talking about on the post-game radio show? I don't think they were really tested much. Did they do just enough to win, or did they look good to you?
Well, to me, it was kind of like an extension of the preseason, right? Because Cam only had the two throws. He only played one series, so it was really kind of his coming out party. So I think that was encouraging that he improved from the first half over the second half. The first half a little sloppy, throws were a little bit high, but timing was a little bit off. But then when you look at the second half, played a lot better. I'd say the one thing that we talked a lot about was obviously the debut of Christian McCaffrey. Somewhat, in some spaces, was used as a decoy, but in other cases, he was getting the ball quite a bit. Jonathan Stewart ran the ball pretty well. Defensively, it looked like this was the defense that we kind of had been expecting. So I think everybody was excited after the game for the fact that it was a win. Wasn't as pretty as it should have been. You could probably make the argument that maybe they should have beaten San Francisco by, more than the 20 points than they did. But, you came out relatively healthy. Cam Newton got to get his feet wet. You got your first look at Christian McCaffrey. So you get the win on the road. Everything's good.
I think people are. There was a discussion about maybe whether they were force feeding Christian McCaffrey, all those types of things. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you one thing I did see the 49ers scheming some things in the back end to keep Funchess and Benjamin out of situations. I saw a couple of situations where they actually doubled Olsen as well. So they were trying to make the the Panthers offense take underneath. And they were forcing Cam they were giving Cam the short and intermediate game. Right. They were not going to let him take shots, which to see him do a great job of checking the ball down and taking what they gave him, I thought was an important piece of the game for the Panthers. So as a lot of people are talking about, it was a walkover for the Panthers. I'm not saying it wasn't, but the 49ers made them walk over them in a certain way because they were scheming not to let the big guys beat them on the outside.
The other thing I thought that was interesting, too, was the Panthers' average field position was like the plus 46.
That's not going to always be the case.
No, and when they had the long field, they didn't do much except for that last drive.
Except for the last drive.
And that was encouraging for anyone that's watched the Panthers over the last 5 years to see them finish that game the way they did. When you end the game in the victory formation after about a 7-minute drive, that's offensive line did their job there.
Yeah, I think they did really well. I was impressed with some of the things I saw. What I'm hoping that Cam, with the shoulder injury, obviously he probably got rid of the ball, checked down a lot more out of necessity than necessary skill set or normal MO. But what I'm hoping is that becomes more of his normal MO so he can protect himself, throughout, so he can have a longer career. But I was one of the people that felt like, good Lord, they're going at McCaffrey again. I'm like, okay, we get it. You want him to be your superstar. You want him to be the new face of this franchise. I get it. But don't force it down our throats.
Well, but I think I agree with that. But I think the flip side of that, though, is I think they really want to see what they have in him.
Right.
Because they didn't really get a chance to test him in the
preseason against ones.
He was going against 2s and 3s, and he was putting up video game numbers in some cases in some of those drives. Mm-hmm. But I think they kind of wanted to get on film what they could see out of him. And now that's one more piece that opponents are going to have to plan for.
And quiet is kept. Say what you want. The 49ers have some talent in their front seven. I thought the offensive line of the Carolina Panthers acquitted themselves pretty well against a group. Now, especially once they lost Reuben Foster, it was a little bit. Reuben Foster had, I think, 3 tackles on the first 5 plays or something.
Yeah.
So he was out of his mind. But they've got guys up front in Buckner and Armstead and Solomon Thomas and Navarro Bowman. They've got football players on the defensive side of the ball, the 49ers do. And the Carolina Panthers offensive line handled them pretty well. And I thought that was an encouraging sign because, as we know, last year, this offensive line was one of the weaknesses of the football team. Mm-hmm. It looks improved from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I hope he plays better. I've never been that sold on him. I sold on Pac-12 running backs coming into the league because
what if he buys some
seen
suits
it.
from? Are you going to be impressed with him then when he starts?
No, I'm not. Okay, I'm not a prostitute. I'm not going to sell my soul to sell a suit. I mean, it is what it is.
It'll look better.
But I just think at the end of the day, we'll see. I still don't think we know what we have from him. But I think they try to force so many times to him that now you put more on film. So if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm like, okay, he's not comfortable here. He's not comfortable here. It's early in his career, but sometimes what you set the tone early in someone's career can set their career. Now, they put Chris Weinke in as a rookie, and it kind of jarred him, and he never recovered from that. So you got to be careful sometimes putting those rookies out there, expose them too soon.
He was an old rookie.
But he was
an old rookie.
He was 1-0 at one point, I think, Mike.
Yeah, but he wasn't an old pro.
Yeah, but one of the easiest positions to transition from college to the pros is running back. Quarterback's a lot different. So, to your point, you can do some things and put a guy in situations that maybe they're not ready for as rookies. But I thought the way they're deploying him right now is a lot of it was situational football. A lot of it also, and I'd love to see more of this, put him in the backfield with Stu. And then you've got Olsen on the field, and you've got the 2 receivers. Now you were in a situation, in theory, to where there's nowhere they can double you defensively.
Totally. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think the Panthers are trying to figure out is, can we put him on the field with these other 4 guys and create situations where nobody is able to be doubled? If you can do that, and the other team can't figure out who they want to double, you have put that defensive coordinator in a lonely position the night before playing.
Or put them in a position where no matter who you double,
you're going to pay for it.
Still have to contend with something else.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and that's what you want.
You've created the Dallas Cowboys of the 90s.
Yes, sir.
That's what you've done. At that point, you've created the Dallas Cowboys of the 90s.
Playoff game, I believe. Last time they won a playoff game, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, that's a fact, by the way.
Actually, it's not.
Redskins, even though we lost and looked bad. We've got more Panthers. And by the way, before we go any further, let's remember Fozzie Whitaker, Carolina Panther running back, is doing a tremendous relief efforts for his hometown of Houston. Look up Fozzie Whitaker on social media and contribute to his efforts to help Houston recover from Hurricane Harvey. We're talking more Carolina Panthers. We've got NASCAR. The Carolina Nationals from the NHRA are in this week. So we've got plenty more to go right here on Talking About Sports. All right. Welcome back to Talking About Sports. Kevin Casey along with Mike Pacheco, Reggie Walker, William Wilson. Mike, the Buffalo Bills come to town with a cadre of former Panthers, be it players in front office, coaching staff. They're 1-0. Granted, they beat the Jets, but they could say Carolina beat the 49ers. What are you looking for with this matchup against Buffalo?
Panthers North?
Yeah, Panthers North.
A lot of people
Carolina North.
calling it Panthers North. Well, obviously, the big discussion this week has been, and will be going into the game on Sunday, is the big question we've heard on Sports Talk Radio has been, who has the advantage? Does Sean McDermott have the advantage because he knows personnel and he knows schemes, whereas the Panthers know what Sean McDermott's going to do, but maybe not as quite as
they
familiar
just don't
with
have
the
many
personnel.
good players. I don't think outside of maybe Tyrod Taylor and LaShawn McCoy and a couple guys.
No, and I think when you look at Tyrod Taylor, I think that's going to be a good matchup for this Panthers defense.
I agree.
Because he is a mobile quarterback, not quite to the level of Cam. I think we can all agree on that. He's not, maybe similar but not the same. I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. But that's one thing that the Panthers see that in practice every day. So I think that's going to be an advantage for the Panthers. And look, Buffalo's they're still kind of finding themselves. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fit in. Mike Tolbert's been kind of an interesting transition for them. Because,
not hard to find him.
Well, no, but he's also not necessarily being used as the battering ram. I mean, he's going to be a guy that's going to get some touches, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the big key for me in this game, and I'll say it this way, for the Panthers defense, is there are going to be times where, especially that defensive front is unable to get home on Tyrod Taylor. He's a good enough passer, but he's not the tallest guy in the world. I think if they get their hands on more than 3 passes at the line of scrimmage, I think you'll see a situation where the Carolina Panther defensive front will dominate this football game, because if he's having issues getting the ball through those passing windows and they're able to get sacks as well, that will minimize what the Buffalo Bills can do, because his ability to move outside of the pocket and make plays off schedule is what makes the Buffalo Bills offense, aside from McCoy, very dangerous.
And this is a game they're going to have, the defensive front is going to have to be very disciplined.
Yes.
And they're going to have to hold their edges, hold their blocks, because you don't want that shifting pocket and then breakdowns, and all of a sudden Tyrod Taylor maybe has the option to run for a little bit.
Yeah, and we can't forget, Mike Colbert can catch passes. He is the one running back that can catch passes. So he does give you a little short receiver. He's not necessarily going to burn you speed-wise, but he can punish you.
He's a safety valve type of guy, and then if you get him 3-4 yards, he can gain another 3-4 yards after that.
Exactly. So they can, and I think McDermott makes this defense exponentially better just by being there.
I think they're getting rid of all their guys. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded Taylor, McCoy, these guys at the deadline for more draft picks. I think they're fire sale mode. Buffalo is.
They may, but they're not going to do it this week.
No, they're not going to do it this week. But I think they're going to try to win every single game they play.
Yeah.
But I think if they can
we play
improve,
to win the game. I've heard.
Yeah,
that's the rumor.
But in that division, with the unrest in the AFC East and situations where you've got Miami trying to break in a Jay Cutler, you've got the Jets. Well, we know what the Jets are, and the Patriots are going to be at the top of their division.
Who's that guy, Hackenberg?
If they can take a shot, if they can continue to find some wins, the Buffalo Bills, they might be able to sneak their way into talking about the playoffs. I don't think they're going to get in.
I don't think they
But
can.
they may be able to sneak their way into talking about the playoffs if they can just do what they're supposed to do. think about this. If they can sweep the Jets and the Dolphins, that's 4 wins already.
They're not going to do that.
You got to find 2 or 3. You find 3 more, all of a sudden you're staring at 7 and 9. That's not a bad year for as bad as Buffalo Bills are talent.
To me, that's about as unheard of as John Force losing a drag race or washing his fire suit. Will Carolina Nationals at the Z-Max Dragway. What's going on with? I know you're excited about the the 4-wide drag racing. What to the casual fan? What is different about the Z-Max Dragway versus other drag strips?
Well, it's 2 wides. 4 wides are in April. Okay. This is just 2 wides this week, but just NHRA is one of those things you have to experience it. I can tell you all day long how great it is. But
you feel that engine roar going through your body.
When you feel, especially like the top fuel cars and the funny cars, when you got 10,000, 11,000 horsepower that hits you at one time, and then you got you need a rim shot.
Well, Will, you talked about all this horsepower at the Z-Max Dragway, and it blew a fuse here because the lights went out briefly. But not only that, Will, you're here. We've got the NASCAR playoffs coming up. In fact, Kevin Tolbert was at NASCAR headquarters, and he had an interesting time looking at.
It's Kevin's phone.
When his phone's going off, the lights are coming on.
I don't know, 785 number. I don't know.
Maybe it's Greg Galling or somebody like that.
What you gonna do when they come for you, bad boy, bad boy?
You may want to put that on silent.
We've got the Monster Energy playoffs coming in.
We should have just put them on.
Yeah.
And,
hey, what's up?
Hey, how you doing? You on the radio?
But we got to talk.
You're going to talk about sports.
Kevin
What do you think about Chris
Got to
McCaffrey?
talk to Martin Truex, Brad Keselowski, and a lot of the NASCAR drivers. Had some fun with these guys here at NASCAR headquarters. Let's take a look at what KT uncovered at NASCAR headquarters.
What would I do if I could celebrate like an NFL player?
Well, my celebrations have been known to be pretty wild already. I took my whole team sliding through the grass at Charlotte.
I don't celebrate much.
And then you know how they grab the ball and like they spin it or they spike it? I've always wanted to like grab my helmet and do that. Like, woo.
Well, there'd be no dancing for sure because I can't dance.
Well, I'm not a dancer, so I wouldn't be dancing, that's for sure.
I'm not a good dancer, but I would dance if I won the championship, absolutely.
Will I twerk? No. I know that's what you were thinking.
I can dance. I can do it all. So if we're at Homestead, I promise you I'll put on a really good show.
I like doing my donuts, and that's about it.
Well, I mean, the biggest celebration is the smoky burnouts and just wearing out the tires, creating as much smoke as possible.
DW used to do the icky shuffle, and then he'd grab the helmet and he'd do like one of these. And
we're okay with that.
Yeah, I think those guys in the NFL, some of their celebrations they got moves that I couldn't do.
I'm not as good as those NFL guys. They got all kinds of moves.
When you get to that top level of sports, it's an accomplishment to not only score a touchdown, but to win a game and to let those guys have some fun with it, because that's really what sports is all about.
I'd go dance on the top of everybody's holler with the trophy.
You know what? I think I'm probably just going to try to get a kiss and a hug from my wife and my daughter and drink a beer too.
It takes the cake, right? I mean, how could you top that?
All right, so I think the guys got a little loose there with the NASCAR playoffs.
Were they in turn 3?
Well, not really. Not loose.
Said they got loose.
Were they rubbing?
Rubbin's racing. That's what I hear, Will.
You don't want to get loose in turn 3.
Did they adjust the wedge?
Is that what they called it down at Ultra Motorsports when you were winning the Truck Series title, Will?
What's that?
They were getting loose. I thought it meant like having a good time, but they're
oh no, you don't want to get loose.
NASCAR jokes.
Yeah, depends where you are.
Bad word.
Better loose out the tight end, but either way. It all depends. It's all about being smooth around the curve, man. It's all about being smooth in the turn.
All right, we got
slow down and speed up.
We've got more NASCAR discussion on our Talking About Sports Extra with William Wilson and Jeff Taylor coming up on many of these same stations. But real quick, Reggie, final thought, whether it be college football or Carolina Panthers.
My final,
or your high school team, middle school team, whatever it is.
Well, hey, listen, we haven't lost a game, middle school or JV.
Coaching was standing.
I'm coaching defensive backs. I told my guys last week. I told my defensive backs, we better get 2 today, meaning 2 interceptions. We got 3, and then one of the outside linebackers got the other one. So we're doing a good job over there. The kids are flying to the ball.
With 2 a day or 2 a days?
No, 2 interceptions. That's what we go get every game. That's what we go get every game. And Thursday, we're going to get 2 more.
Who you guys play?
Hickory Grove. Hickory Grove. I coach at Metrolina Christian Academy.
You're Metrolina Christian Academy.
Yep, over in Indian Trail, North
and
Carolina.
Who are you playing Hickory Grove?
Playing Hickory Grove on Thursday.
All right.
So since you're coaching at a Christian academy, do you use good Christian vernacular when you're coaching?
Absolutely.
Or does it get a little bit
First of all, I'm
salty?
Listen, I'm a God-fearing man of the Lord. Come on now, don't play me.
All right.
I am too, but there are times when my vocabulary doesn't necessarily reflect that.
Oh, well.
I must admit.
Well, I slip in vocabulary as well, even though we're both educated men.
That is true.
Happens.
All right. Will,
From major universities.
Yes, sir.
All right, Will, what do you got?
I don't know. I'm excited about the racing.
Oh,
I'm about race about horsepower and speed. That's what I'm excited about right now.
Fuse.
Huh?
You blew a fuse here, so don't do it again. So
Hey,
I'm
man.
excited. So we got Talking About Sports Extra coming up with that. Mike, what do you got? Your Boston College Eagles lost, but
They did. Yeah, they did.
You got the beard going.
My post-baseball look.
Maybe you like me. You need to talk to Keith Hernandez and Walt Frazier or something like that.
No. This is my Brett Favre look.
There you go.
And by the way, Saturday night, a real boxing match, Triple G and Canelo. That's going to be a good one.
All right, real quick, who you got?
I got Canelo.
In the ice tub with the Takati. Will?
Don't know enough about him. I'll say Triple G just because it sounds cooler.
Mike?
I'll punt.
All right. You can't do that. I'm a root for Triple G, but I think if it goes the distance, look for Canelo with the Takati and Stallone in his corner. So that's it for Talking About Sports. Don't go anywhere. We've got the Talking About Sports Extra with William Wilson and Jeff Taylor. We're talking NASCAR playoffs. For our good friends Reggie Walker, William Wilson, Mike Pacheco and Kevin Tolbert, still injured with that Anderson Brothers cast on his arm. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Kevin Casey saying so long for now.
I thought you were about to say WFNZ, dog.